Hi, my name's Adam. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about long-term care, assisted living, and being ready for when you can't plan for yourself. This video was actually triggered by a viewer of ours that works in this space, and she reached out to me and said, look, Adam, I think people don't quite understand how the process works. They think that care homes can be very expensive and it's a long wait list and all of that, which can be true to some extent, but I think there's a lot of bad information out there. So what I'm going to cover off today is what are the costs of long-term care? What's the structure of it? What's the timeline to get in? And things that you need to think about. At the end of the video, I'm also going to talk about next steps. How do you prepare for if you ever need to get in a care facility, in a care home, or in-home care? So I'm going to give you the tools and the breakdown to make sure that you're ready for that. So when I did the interview with this lady, the first thing and the thing that she kept talking about, she kept saying a phrase. She said, be prepared for when you can't plan. And she said, people don't realize that you need to prepare for this. You can't just get to 85 and say, I need a care facility and have nothing planned out. And that's why it's important. I know a lot of you viewers are kind of in that 50 to 70-year-old range. You're not quite at that care facility phase, but you might be one day. Now, not everyone's going to need a care facility or in-home care, but you can start making preparations for if you do. And there is a qualification. You need to qualify to get into these facilities. Now, as far as placement goes, this lady was saying that placement is based on need. So if you come in and you have a very high need and you need that facility care, typically you're going to be placed within 1 to 3 months. Now, every province and territory is going to be a little bit different, obviously, but in general across the country, within about 1 to 3 months, you should be placed. So if you're trying to get into assisted living or a care facility and you don't have a big need for it, you're going to be near the bottom of the list. So it's going to take a lot longer. So that's why some people say, yeah, the wait list is years to get in. It might be true if you're not needing that care facility. If you're in desperate need of a facility, it's going to happen a lot quicker. When you apply to get into a care facility, again, long-term care, assisted living, or somewhere in between, obviously needs-based is a big thing, and it's also where you want to go. So if you apply, let's say you're not in desperate need, but you know you're going to need care facility, or maybe you're looking after a loved one. Maybe you have a parent that you're trying to get into a care facility, and it doesn't have to happen tomorrow, but ideally in the next 6 to 12 months. Well, they're going to ask you, where would you like to be placed? Or where would your parents like to be placed? And that's going to kind of help how quick you jump in as well. The more broad you are, obviously the more options that you have as well. So be very diligent on this. So one of the very first questions you're going to be asked if you're placed in a parent in care facility or if you're looking to go to care facility is they're going to look at your financial situation. If you're married or common law, if you're going to a facility and your partner or spouse is staying at home, there needs to be the financial means to make that happen. There's a cost to a facility and there needs to be enough money left to allow that person to live a life at home. And so make sure that you kind of have that in order going forward. Now, I will say this. I was shocked, on the low end shocked, of what the cost is for public care facility. Now, obviously, when you look at care facility, there's private facility, there's public facility. So in BC, for public facility, ranges from $1,237 up to $3,575. So that's the range. And there are some subsidies in that you can apply for if you're really low income. Now, again, long-term care is based on percentage of income. In BC, 80% of your income. Assisted living is 70% of your income. And again, there's a bit of a difference if you go rural or urban. So there's a bit of a difference, but I think the key takeaway here that I got from this lady and from the system altogether in the public side of things, so what you pay is actually based on your net income. It's not based on assets and everything else. It's based on income. And so it goes back to 100 videos I've done before this talking about RSP meltdown and strategy and all that. Like, how do you spend money early? And people always say, yeah, but Adam, if you spend money early, you're only left with your house. Is that enough to maintain a care facility or whatever it is? If you can create a situation where you spend a lot of your money early, have a lot more of that income early and level out the taxes and create efficiency there, obviously. But if you get to your 80s and maybe 90s, at the point of life where you need in-home care or a care facility and the amount that you pay is based on your income and your only income is CPP and OAS and you're able to live off of that, that's a great position. Or maybe you have a TFSA that you're drawing on. Remember, that's not taxable income. Thus, it will not drive up the amount that you have to pay. What this lady was telling me is a lot of people hit a care facility and they start ripping out their RSP because they realize that they're getting near the end of their life. They still have hundreds of thousands in their RSP and they start ripping it out to give to their kids and grandkids and charities and whatever. It sounds like a great idea, but she said the problem is it drives up their income. So it actually, a lot of the time, will drive up how much they have to pay on a monthly basis. So bad planning early in retirement is costing them later in retirement. So for all of you that said, Adam, your plan in the system sounds great, but there's a shortfall for care facility later on. It's based on income. And whether you're in BC, Ontario, or somewhere in between or outside of that, it's all based on income. If you fall on the short side of it where you can't afford in BC $12.37 a month, there are some subsidies and grants in that for hardship. So that is there, and it's on a year-to-year basis. So you can apply for that. You can get some subsidies to get that care facility that you need. So if you're looking for care facilities, all that, again, every province is very different. The subsidies are different. The pricing is different. It does range drastically, private to public, all of that. So I did find the average cost for assisted living, and this is back in 2018, so it would have bumped up a little bit. In Ontario, it was $3,433. In BC, it was $2,700. So a bit of a difference there for sure. So I don't know if Ontario is still that much more, but that was substantially more. There's going to be cost difference province to province, could be different prices also in the private sector. So be aware of that. If you're someone that's looking for a private care facility, the price range on that can fluctuate greatly, obviously. Typically, you're in BC here, and the research I did, it was kind of across the country. Your price will range from about $4,000 or $5,000 a month all the way up to $10,000 a month. Again, depending on how much care, how lavish the facilities, all of that. When I was talking to this lady who works in the public system, she said she has found, she's worked public and private, and she said, look, at the end of the day, the public system, typically, the facilities are just as good or better. And it's because the workers are paid well and they have pension plans. So they enjoy going to work on the most part. Again, this is a comment from one person, but it's good to note that I think a lot of people, and even myself, I thought, if I ever needed a care facility or for my parents, I would do private. Because private just sounds, it's like private school, private this, it's got to be better. Not necessarily the case. Do your due diligence. If there's a private facility in the public, do interviews, go in and talk to people, figure out what works, because it may not be a need to pay for the private facility. The public might be even better. A lot of people might go to the private facility because it might be a little faster to get in. Not necessarily, but it might be. So if you're looking to get in right away, but you don't actually have a need to get in right away, a private facility might be the way to go. There's also private facilities across the country. I know one here locally in Surrey, they have a Surrey and Chilliwack, so kind of within an hour of my office here. It's called Elam Village. And Elam Village, it has townhomes where you can actually move into early. You're living in a community, but you're taking care of yourself. There's no support at all. And then you kind of ramp up. So it's like multi-stages within the same campus. So you can own a townhouse, you can move into a condo with no assistance, and then you can move into a condo and get assistance, and then there's full assisted living. So you can kind of like stay on the same property, but kind of stage up as you get older. So there's private facilities like that are great options as well. So there's lots of options out there. Figure out what's going to be best for you or for your loved one that you're looking to get into a facility. I want to pass along two resources that this lady had passed on to me, and I looked at both websites. They look great. I've never used either service, so look at it. And again, these are BC based, but every province or territory will have a service like this. If you're not in BC, reach out to Nidus as the first one. Reach out to them and say, look, I'm in Saskatchewan, Ontario, PI, wherever you are. Is there a service like this in our province? And I know there is. I just don't know what they all are. But anyway, Nidus is an expert on rep agreements. So they kind of help structure things so that when you can't take care of yourself or make decisions for yourself, that the proper systems are in place. And this is a free service essentially. The second one is Bloom Group. And again, it's more like adult guardianship program. So again, Nidus and Bloom Group, those are two services that this lady talked about in the public system that they use quite a bit. Check them out and see what the service is in your province or territory that might fit that mold as well. So I want to go back to two tips I talked about earlier. And I think these are the two biggest tips as you get into retirement and get older. These are the two biggest factors that you need to look at. Number one is you need to be close to someone that is an advocate for you. So again, this could be a child, family member, a friend, someone that when you go to a care facility, someone that's going to go to bat for you to make sure you're getting well cared for, support you, bring you out, right? Like you're not going to be locked in this facility forever, every day, all day. You want someone to take you out and go to the mall and do whatever, get your hair done, whatever it is. Let's say, like I'm in BC here. So let's say you live up in Prince George and you have kids in the Vancouver area. Try to get placed in the Vancouver area, not Prince George. Because if you're in a care facility in Prince George, which is hours away, the chances that your kids can advocate for you, support you, it's going to be less. And they're going to do it hopefully, but it's going to be less. You might want to move to where they are. The second tip is when you retire, don't just jump ship from the major cities to rural. Where you move needs to have care facility. Now, again, that could be multi-state. It could be you retire at 60 and from 60 to 75, you're going to live up on the lake in Niagara. Perfect. But there's going to be a point where you want to make sure you're kind of 30 minutes or less from a major hospital, from care facilities, that kind of thing. Again, going back to where I live here now, just outside Vancouver, a lot of people are selling their homes here, cashing in on the real estate market, and they're moving to the interior, Kelowna, Penticton, Osoyoos, but sometimes they're moving to the smaller cities. And they have to be aware there may not be support for you in those smaller cities. And we have had clients relocate to Oliver, which is a small city in, southeastern BC. They've lived there for a few years and they've had to commute up to Penticton, which is 45 minutes an hour every time each way. And they realize that this doesn't make sense anymore. So what they've done is actually now picked up their eggs and they moved up to Penticton. If you need in-home care, don't move away from that in retirement. And a lot of you are starting to do that. You have to think about who's going to take care of you and how are you going to be taken care of if you need that down the road. So as you get on with life and you start to prepare for care or possible care, again, going back to that phrase, be prepared for when you can't plan. I think this has to be ingrained into each and every one of you watching this video. When you can't plan anymore, when you can't make those decisions, have you done the things before that to make sure that what you want in your life, the care facility, maybe you have a care facility that, hey, when you get to that point, if you ever get there, that's where I want to go. There's things that you need to do beforehand, steps that you need to take beforehand. Who takes care of your financial decisions, your health decisions, when you do pass away, your will, all that kind of stuff, that has to be in place beforehand. So here's a few things that you need to get together. So preparing for care facility, care home, in-home care, whatever it is, here are a few things that you want to consider. The first thing you want to do is have a power of attorney and a will. So get a will in place. So when you pass away, a will state, this is where my assets or who my assets go to. The second part of that is your power of attorney. Now, there's two types of power of attorney. There's an enduring power of attorney, which is basically saying your legal and financial affairs. And then there's a rep agreement, which talks about health. You want to get these things in place. Talk to a lawyer, talk to a notary in your area, get these things in place. Again, Willfold is an online service that does this kind of stuff as well. Figure out what the best solution is for you. Everyone's going to be looking for something a little bit different, but you want to make sure that if you lose mental capacity, who are making your health decision and your financial decisions. And then again, when you pass away, you want to make sure that things go to the people that you want them to go to, and that will be done through your will. The next part to prepare for care is where are you living? Where you live matters. You need to make sure that you're close to care facility or somewhere where people can come take care of you in your house, close to a hospital, all of that. A lot of you don't consider this stuff as you enter into retirement. You need to start thinking about this. The next thing is, it kind of ties into the RSP meltdown. You want to spend down your taxable income. When you hit the point of, I need to go to care facility, you want your taxable income to be low. Because again, for the public system and even some of the private systems and private facilities, what you pay is based on your net income. The more taxable income you have, the more you're paying for care. So if you can structure your world where you kind of strategically draw out that RSP, that RIF income earlier, maybe get it into a TFSA, later in retirement, you can pull money from your TFSA. It's tax-free money. It doesn't drive up your taxable bill, which means that it keeps your cost of care a lot lower than it would be otherwise. And this is where that ladder, the go-go, slow-go, no-go phase of retirement, typically you're going to a care facility in that no-go. So if the only income in your no-go phase is CPP, old age security, and maybe TFSA money, that's a great position to be in. That's the best position to be in. So don't be worried about running out of money later. Have a plan in place, that structured ladder plan that shows that you're going to have enough money whether you go to a care facility or not. So I hope this gives you a bit of direction on care facilities. Again, if you're placing a loved one in a facility, if you're looking to put yourself in one, or just planning ahead. Again, that phrase, be prepared for when you can't plan. I think that's vastly important and something that you need to start implementing both for yourself and maybe for some people around you. Every province, territory, public, private, it's all very different. So figure out kind of the bubble where you live and what you're looking for and start doing the research around that. There's a lot of information online on this, and talk to people. If you know anyone that has a family member, friend, loved one in a facility, get their experience. Is it public? Is it private? Does it work well? Are you getting good treatment? All that kind of stuff. That's the first place to start, other than, again, these few things that I've talked about today. So thank you so much for joining us in this video. We'll see you in the next one.